Good morning, dear ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming to our webinar, Geopolitical Tuesday. I would like to thank especially our guest from Université Po Grenoble, Professor Jean Marcou. Thank you for accepting our invitation. And I would like to thank also our partner, Diplomatie Magazine. I'm very happy to welcome you to a lecture of Professor Jean Marcou entitled Geopolitics of Turkey. Please turn off your microphones and cameras. And for your information, this conference is recorded and will be available on YouTube channel. My name is Kinga Torbicka. I am the research fellow at the Center of French Culture and Francophone Studies at the University of Warsaw. At the beginning, I will present our guest, then Professor Jean Marcou will start his lecture, and after we invite you to question and answer session. Now, let me present our guest, Professor Jean Marcou from Sciences Po Grenoble. You are a professor at Sciences Po Grenoble at the Université Grenoble Alpes and an assistant researcher at the French Institute of Anatolian Studies in Istanbul. Today, Professor Jean Marcou will present the latest developments in Ankara's foreign policy, in particular the wide gap between its membership in NATO and its recent rapprochement with Russia. The presentation will also observe more concretely the positioning of Ankara in regional areas like Syria, Iraq, Eastern Mediterranean, or Libya, and in peripheral areas such as the Caucasus or Africa. After his lecture, we invite you to question and answer session. You could write your question or comment on the chat, and we invite you to consult also Diplomatie Magazine, special edition in French, entitled Geopolitics of Turkey. And now I invite Professor Jean Marcou to present his lecture.
Yes, thank you, Kinga Torbicka, for this introduction. I am really pleased to be with you today, and especially to be the guest of the University of Warsaw and the guest of this series of webinars. Well, I can say that this conference is following, as Kinga told you, a special issue of the Diplomatie Magazine dedicated to the geopolitics of Turkey. My advice is, of course, and especially if you speak French, to acquire this review, because it is a good overview of the evolution, the evolution of domestic issues in Turkey, not only political issues, but also social and economical issues. And of course, it is an overview of the last development of the Turkish foreign policy. Even you can find some articles online, but mainly to benefit from the articles of this review, you need to acquire the review itself. And here you have the possibility to access the diplomacy site in order to order this review and to receive it. Well, for the time being, I am going to develop my arguments during 45 minutes. I think this is the time I was, the time I have to speak of geopolitics of Turkey. And then of course, I hope that you will raise your question and that we will develop a dialogue, because of course this conference is an opportunity to develop dialogue with our friends, our Polish friend, because I remind you that Grenoble, Sciences Po Grenoble, which is part of the University of Grenoble Alpes, has a long relationship with the University of Warsaw, and we every year welcome students from both parts, and also regularly welcome scholars, and we have this kind of activities, conference regularly since some years, due to the real efficient policy of the center Kinga is a member of. So I will try to connect my PowerPoint. I hope I will be able to do it. Yes, it seems. Well, do you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, it's okay.
Okay, great. Geopolitics of as an introduction, I want to give you some elements regarding the history of the Turkish foreign policy. Well, I won't speak of the Ottoman Empire, but of course it would be important to analyze the foreign policy and the position of the Ottoman Empire. Well, we will start from the foreign policy of the Republic of Turkey. The Republic of Turkey was proclaimed in 1923, and you see this motto, Yurtta Sul, Cihanda Sul. It is a sentence you can see in Turkey on various monuments, Kemalist monuments. And well, this motto means peace in the country, peace in the world. And through this motto, you can understand that one of the main characters of the foreign policy of Mustafa Kemal was to be dedicated to national independence. National independence, not really formally neutrality, but a sort of neutralism and anti-imperialism. And the idea of Mustafa Kemal after the creation of a Turkish nation state that had been possible after the rejection of the first treaty after the First World War, the Treaty of Sèvres, to obtain a second treaty, the Treaty of Lausanne in 1923. The idea of Mustafa Kemal was to ensure the national independence and to avoid interference of great powers, as we can observe, and this kind of interferences at the end of the Ottoman Empire. So, in fact, this independence is ensured by the Treaty of Lausanne. Treaty of Lausanne is very important, as well as the Treaty of Montreux in 1936. Why? Because it is a recognition of the independence of Turkey, even of the existence of this new Turkish nation state. And the Treaty of Montreux referred to the strait, the statute of the strait, and gave to Turkey the control of the strait, even if there is a freedom of circulation, a freedom of passage through the Bosphorus and through the Dardanelles, because the two straits are the Bosphorus and the Dardanelles. So I think we have to avoid sometime misinterpretation of the foreign policy of Mustafa Kemal and a confusion between the reform Mustafa Kemal launched inside the country, and these reforms were influenced by the Western way of life. So we can speak regarding this reform of Westernization, a sort of Westernization of modernization, but also Westernization of Turkey. That is for the domestic side, but on the international side, in fact, the foreign policy of Mustafa Kemal was not a pro-Western foreign policy. It was a policy, as I told you, of national independence. And close and close to this national independence foreign policy, Turkey said at that time to have good relation with its neighbors, and especially with Greece, with Balkans country. You remember perhaps this Balkans Pact signed by Turkey, or the friendship treaty with Greece, or treaty of friendship and cooperation with Iran of Afghanistan at that time. The idea was to have good relation and to avoid to be involved in dangerous issues out of the border of Turkey. This foreign policy of Mustafa Kemal, and this, showing that Turkey was cautious regarding its relation with the foreign world, continue to influence the foreign policy of Turkey, even in the second part of the 20th century. But we'll see that in the second part of the 20th century, the position of Turkey will change, and this national independence foreign policy will change. So, but we have to avoid this confusion between the domestic westernization and this independent national, this independent foreign policy. Looking at what happened during the Second World War, perfectly illustrate and demonstrate this cautious approach of the world from Turkey, because Turkey was not involved really in the Second World War, and Turkey only declared war to Germany and to the Axis powers at the end of the war, that to say in February 1945. Well, the turning point occurred after the Second World War. You see these posters of various Western organizations at that time, NATO, when the Council of Europe, and you can observe that the flag of Turkey is on the posters, and that means that Turkey was part of this process of unification of the Western world. Why this turning point? Mainly because, of course, the balance of the world changed. You see here a map of the Cold War, and I like this map because it demonstrates the special position of Turkey after the Second World War and why Turkey decided to join the Western Bloc, mainly because Turkey was the only bordering country of the Black Sea. This is a French card, so you see Mer Noire is Black Sea in French, and you see the development at that time of the USSR, and well, this creation of a communist bloc. And after the Second World War, Turkey, as Turkey was independent, has no close relation with the Western world. Well, the Turkey had the relation, but they were not as close as today. So finally, after the Second World War, step by step, Turkey decided to enter the Western Bloc, and especially Turkey became a centerpiece of NATO during the Cold War. And also you see the strategic value of Turkey at that time increased a lot, and during all the Cold War, Turkey was a very important country. It was the only country to have a common border with USSR, with Norway. So the importance of Turkey was really great. Yes, Turkey in the Western Bloc. Turkey is a member of the Western Bloc. And you see some element of this pro-Western policy in the Cold War of Turkey. Turkey accepts the Marshall Plan. Turkey recognized Israel. Well, Turkey is not a founding member of the Council of Europe, but entered the Council of Europe 6 months after the creation of the Council of Europe. Turkey entered then in NATO in 1952, and that's why Turkey was not really part of this non-aligned movement. And compared to other countries of the region, for example, Egypt was a key member of the non-aligned country, a key participant of the Bandung conference in the middle of the 50s. In 1955, Turkey was differently from Egypt. Turkey participated to the Baghdad Pact, and the Baghdad Pact, under the umbrella of the United Kingdom, was a sort of Oriental NATO. So Turkey was out of the movement of decolonization, the movement of the third world, because Turkey was really a part of the Western Bloc, participate to the war in Korea, and support the American position. For example, also even during the Algerian war, Turkey at that time supported the French position against the rebellion. So you see the position of Turkey at that time was really different from today, despite the fact that today Turkey is still a member of NATO, but it got a sort of room of maneuver, and we will speak of that, of course. So, well, speaking of what happened after the Cold War, well, I think after the Cold War, the situation changed for Turkey. Turkey have doubts on its strategic position in the New World. Turkey finally, step by step, has to adapt its position in the New World. And the change appeared really with this guy, well, during the AKP, after the beginning of the AKP government, especially after the beginning of the millennium. You remember that AKP came to power in 2002, in 2002, and the change in Turkish foreign policy didn't only came with the AKP in power. We can explain the evolution of the Turkish foreign policy mainly by two factors. The first one, of course, is the AKP, the election of AKP and the victory of AKP in 2002. But also, we have to keep in mind that another reason is probably the change of the balance, the end of the balance of the Cold War, and the rise of new balance, new powers, new issues, and Turkey has to change step by step its foreign policy. Here we can see one of the main actor of this change. It is Ahmet Davutoglu. Ahmet Davutoglu was first. You see him on these two pictures. He was first a counselor of the executive of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, of Abdullah Gül, and then, especially in 2009, he became the head of the Turkish diplomacy, and is known to have launched this very significant new Turkish foreign policy called the zero problem with neighbor policy. Zero problem with neighbors policy, well, the first attempt of a new policy appeared between 2007-2010, but really it is with the Ahmet Davutoglu as a Minister of Foreign Affairs that this new foreign policy was confirmed, the peak of this new policy was probably between 2009 and 2011. That's to say, and especially during the Arab Spring, because at that time, after the beginning of the Arab Spring and between 2 years, Turkey was said sometime to be a sort of model for the changing Arab countries after their revolution. What are the characters of this zero problem with neighbors policy? First character was why Turkey has difficult relation with its neighbors during the Cold War. In the Middle East, Turkey has a sort of very direct relation with the West and quite no relation with the neighboring country. So in fact, this foreign policy is first a sort of neighborhood policy, and through this neighborhood policy, Turkey developed relation with its neighbor, with all its neighbor, with this motto, no, zero problem with our neighbors, and even with very problematic neighbors as, for example, Syria, Turkey established really good relation before the Arab Spring. A mediating frenzy, well, I remember this cautious approach of its neighboring areas by Turkey. Turkey at that time took a new diplomatic initiative and began to offer its mediation in the Middle East, in the Balkans, especially. So a very active foreign policy. And the last character is the multi-dimensional character, the idea of a multi-dimensional policy, because previously the foreign policy of Turkey was mainly organized around a privileged and exclusive relationship with Western allies. And at that time, Turkey is discovering not only its new field of action in the Middle East, but also in other continents, in other parts of the world, especially Far East, Africa, South Africa, or Caucasus and Central Asia. You see two significant picture of that time. Davutoglu with Catherine Ashton, the High Commissioner at that time of for European Foreign Affairs, and relation between Davutoglu and Crown Prince in Qatar, which is a close ally to Turkey. So, in fact, this zero problem with neighbor policy failed. Failed with the Arab Spring and the consequences of the Arab Spring. And, well, today, and since, well, we can say this failure occurred mainly between 2013 and 2015. And since this moment, we have a new, very realistic policy. Well, Mr. Davutoglu is no longer an actor of the Turkish foreign policy, because today Mr. Davutoglu is a dissident in Turkey, even an opponent. He has his own party, is chairing his own party, and he criticizes, well, the current foreign policy of Turkey. But now the problem is to understand the last development of the Turkish foreign policy, and I will do it mainly through three parts. The first part is, well, this very impressive, well, King has commented and has announced, in fact, introduced my presentation, but the first part will concern the new friends of Turkey, which are not real allies, for example, Russia. The second, but there are other countries, these curious new friends of Turkey. The second part will deal with the old allies or old rivals of Turkey. For example, of course, the Western world, and especially the US and the Arab world. And the last one will deal with the current challenge from regional involvement to peripheral intervention, because I think during my presentation you will understand that the current core of the Turkish foreign policy is undoubtedly in the Near East and the East Med area, but also in the last development, we have very important last development in Africa and in the Caucasus. So these are the outlines, and let's speak of the first part of this development, looking for new friends that are not real allies. Well, the first new friend is, of course, Russia. You see here Recep Tayyip Erdogan shaking hand with Vladimir Putin. And, well, we observe a very curious rapprochement since years and years, and since the last decade, and perhaps even the two last decades. We observe a curious rapprochement between Russia and Turkey, and especially in the Syrian conflict through the Astana process. Astana process, well, is a group of which aim is to solve the Syrian conflict. And this group is composed by Russia, Iran, and Turkey. And it is a curious group because, of course, Russia and Iran are supporting the regime of Bashar al-Assad, as Turkey is supporting its opposition. But very concretely, when we try to investigate this relationship between Turkey and Russia, we can see that there are real attempts to build a sustainable relationship between Russia and Turkey. Very concretely, well, there is a sort of energy relation between, because Turkey is providing gas. Well, we can observe that since some years, Turkey is cautious regarding this supply, because the Russian gas decrease in the gas imports of Turkey. But anyway, there is an important gas relation between both countries, not only because Russia provide a third of the gas, a bit more than a third of the gas consumed in Turkey today, but also because Turkey is part of the Turkish Stream, that's to say the southern corridor to carry the Russian gas to Europe and to avoid crossing Ukraine. So strategically, you see the importance of this gas relation between Turkey and Russia. We can observe increase in economic exchange. I spoke of the Southern Gas Corridor. There was before an attempt with the South Stream gas pipeline, abandoned in 2014. But then we have the Turkish Stream, and Turkish Stream is today entered into services in 2020. Also, Russia is in charge of building the first nuclear plant in Turkey, the Akkuyu nuclear plant, and also more recently, the last development of this relation between Turkey and Russia was the fact that Turkey acquired S-400 missiles, S-400 missiles, air defense missiles, and this we'll see that a conflict with the West, with NATO, and with the US. Well, another curious partner is Iran, because a new friend is Iran, because, well, in the history, Iran is, well, has very complex relation with Turkey. Of course, there had been a very interesting rapprochement or impressive rapprochement, especially on the Kurdish issue in Iraq, or in the Gulf and during the Qatari crisis in 2017. Iran and Turkey support Qatar versus Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Egypt, and the rest of the conservative Arab world. Well, and you know, when speaking of relation in Iran, in Turkey, always people and officials used to say, no ally, no enemy. And it's true that since the 17th century, Turkey, well, the Ottoman Empire and the Persian Empire has established a special relation to avoid war. That's to say, well, there are two important powers in the Middle East, very old states, so with important interests, but they already used to deal to avoid conflict. So the relation, there are no really allies, but we observed that recently, a little bit like with Russia, there were a very important rapprochement between both countries, and also there are economic and energy reasons for that. For example, Turkey is seeking permanently for energy, and Iran is providing gas and oil to Turkey. And even during the embargo, Turkey find a way to acquire oil or gas, and this is important, interesting. Even at the moment, there are, since some years, there are tourists, Iranian tourists, coming to the Van Lake in the southeastern part of Turkey. Well, the last case is Qatar. Qatar and this ideal between Turkey and Qatar. There are two old diplomatic convergences between Turkey and Qatar during the Ottoman Empire, but also in the 2000s, especially with Syria, there was a sort of triptych relation, Turkey, Syria, and Qatar, in order to, at that moment, Turkey has improved its relation with Syria. Turkey and Qatar tried to bring Syria in the new world, facilitate the relation of Syria with the new world. But we can observe that with Oman, Qatar is a dissident country of the Gulf. It is a dissident Gulf country opposing Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, and the other country of the Gulf. So, in fact, this is, I think, this relation with Qatar for Turkey, it is also a way to have an influence in the Gulf, in this important Gulf region. And especially you can observe that also Turkey established a military base in Qatar in 2016, 2017. Well, we will pass to the second part, but we can observe that the relations are not always clear relations, especially during the Afghan case recently, during the Afghan file and the development of the Afghan file at the end of the at the end of the summer. We have seen that Qatar have held a meeting to solve some aspect of the Afghan case, and in fact, Turkey was not invited to this conference, and this provoked some skirmishes between Turkey and Qatar. Well, second part, dealing with all the lies and all revolts. The first allies and the first interesting relationship is, of course, with the US. Despite Turkey continue its membership in NATO, despite initial convergence between the US and Turkey regarding the Syrian crisis, there are prolonged disagreements between the US and Turkey, especially since the political conflict, since the coup d'etat, this attempt of coup d'etat in 2016. There are a political conflict because you know that the author of the coup for the Turks is Fethullah Gulen, and Fethullah Gulen is living since now more than 20 years in the US, and the US refused to extradite Fethullah Gulen, and probably Recep Tayyip Erdogan is convinced that Turkey has a responsibility in this, not Turkey, but the US has the responsibility in this coup. So this is an important political lack of confidence between both countries. You have some legal case, legal dispute. For example, a pastor that was accused to be part of the coup. This Metun Topuz case, it is an employee of the American consulate of in Istanbul accused to be a spy. So also what provoked anger of Turkey is this American support for the Kurds in Syria, the PYD, YPG, and also we already said this purchase by Turkey of Russian S-400, and this provoked the exclusion of Turkey from the F-35 program. F-35 is a jet, Lockheed Martin jet, and by the American Congress. And still now, Turkey is excluded of this program, and Turkey will be won't be able to acquire this new F-35, and recently Turkey asked to acquire to purchase F-16 planes to the US. So this is an important problem, and perhaps you can raise some question on this issue. Also, Turkey has difficult relation with allies of the US, for example, the European, with regular diplomatic incident, and especially recently with France, last year on Libya, in Cyprus, in the East Med. Well, the difficult relation between Turkey and the US was saved previously by a sort of good personal relation between Recep Tayyip Erdogan and Trump, and today there are hopes for a rapprochement since the Joe Biden election. Since the Joe Biden election, you know that the approach of Joe Biden is this vision of a sort of new Cold War opposing the West to China, and inside this vision, this new vision of the world, of course, probably the US wants to secure the support of Turkey to the Western world, but this is not clear until today, and we'll see what happens in the next months. Well, back to a difficult relation with the Arab world. After this Turkish model during the Arab Spring, the situation deteriorate between Turkey and the Arab world, especially with Egypt. The relation between Turkey and Egypt after ambassador was expelled from in 2013. Turkey, there were vain attempts of Turkey to establish good relations with Saudi Arabia, but they were vain because during the Qatari crisis in 2017, Turkey opposed the bloc of conservatives country. And well, at the highest level, we can observe a sort of rivalry between Turkey and especially Saudi Arabia to influence and even to control the Muslim world. But, well, and perhaps that's because the situation changed in the US with the election of Joe Biden. It is perhaps a consequence of this new presidency, and when there are attempts of reconciliation 4 or 5 years ago were very bad, has very recently the Crown Prince of the Emirates visited Turkey, and a visit of Recep Tayyip Erdogan is planned on next February. It was it's an information just released 2 days ago. So we'll see what happened on this point. Well, the rival dispute between Greece and Turkey, this is due to the failed attempt to settle the Cypriot issue. Also, there are disputes over migration management between Greece and Turkey. And you know that last year, Turkey launched drilling and in the East Med, and this provoked EU sanctions. This provoked conflict, especially not only with Greece but with France. And while Turkey was a bit isolated in the East Med because the gas provider, that's to say Israel, Cyprus, Greece, Cyprus and Egypt form a sort of agreement for different reasons. Here you have an agreement for the East Med gas pipeline between Israel, Cyprus and Greece, but there is also a gas forum that gathered the different bordering countries of the East-Med except Turkey. And this gas forum is sometimes seen as a sort of anti-Turkey gas forum in the East-Med. So, of course, the East-Med is a very sensitive issue for the Turkish foreign policy. Perhaps you know that Recep Tayyip Erdogan and part of the Turkish Navy is speaking of the blue home Turkey has to blue hand because it will be isolated in the Mediterranean because of its conflict with Greece in the Aegean Sea, but because Turkey felt excluded from the agreement of November 2019 and the different agreement to establish the border of the exclusive economic zone in the Middle East, in the East-Med. And we can see that this Turkish-Libyan agreement to establish their exclusive economic zone was a sort of offensive of Turkey to breach this organization of the East-Med. Here you have also an important map with the strategic dimension of the gas game, the different pipe established in the region, and Turkey tried to appear as a sort of gas hub in the Near East. Well, and here at the moment we can say that Egypt with GPL, Egypt that export GPL, import gas from Israel and then export GPL in the world. Egypt is a bit challenging, in fact, the position of Turkey to be where this ambition of Turkey to be a sort of gas hub in the East-Med and the Near East. Well, I will hand my analyze through this conclusion and through this last development from regional involvement to peripheral intervention. Well, I think one of the first stakes Turkey has to face today is its military involvement in Syria, because Turkey launched three transborder intervention, military transborder intervention within the last years, and within the 4 or 5 last years, not only the 3 last years, in 2016, 2018, 2019, that was mainly to interfere in the Syrian conflict, and especially to avoid to have a common border with Kurds and with Daesh, and with Daesh first and then with Kurds. Then we have in 2020, last year, an intervention in the Idlib area, and this intervention was against the Syrian, directly against the Syrian strikes and Syrian presence or assault against this Idlib area. but it was also indirectly against the Russian policy in the Syrian conflict. Inductively, this intervention, this military involvement, permit Turkey to create a sort of Turkish zone in the northern part of Syria. And we see, and this the strategy of Turkey here is to prevent the creation of a sort of autonomous Kurdish region in Syria. Here, Turkey has a complex position with the United States, because the United States is supporting the Syrian Kurds organization. And at the moment, the most difficult position of Turkey is really its position in the Idlib. Idlib is in, you see this white part of the map. It is a very sensitive part because you have refugees in this zone, and if the assault is launched by the Syrian regime, probably again a lot of refugees will flee on the Turkish territory. Here you have a global map of Turkey and Iraq, of Syria and Iraq, and the different actors in Syria and Iraq. Paradoxically, Turkey has difficult, well, no relation with the Syrian Kurd, but you see in dark yellow all this spot. It is the Kurdish government of northern Iraq, and Turkey has very good relation with Erbil, that's to say the capital of the Iraqi Kurds. So good relation with the Iraqi Kurds and bad relation with the Syrian Kurd. We can explain why if you have question on this point. Also involvement of Turkey in the Libyan conflict. It was very impressive because it was a different kind of intervention from the intervention in Syria. Here you see a drone, a Turkish drone, and well, this intervention revealed the efficiency of Turkish drone. Well, particularly, you know it in Poland because recently your government decided to acquire this kind of drone, Bayraktar TB2. And in fact, with this drone, with this intervention, using some Turkish troops, but mainly mercenaries in Libya, and also drones, Turkey was successful in saving the government of Tripoli. And so it was an interesting development of the foreign policy of Turkey, because Turkey was able to develop an overseas intervention, as the intervention in Syria were transborders operations. Well, at the moment, Turkey is very active in Syria, but the last development is the rejection of the candidacy of the current Prime Minister of Libya, Mr. Beba, and perhaps this rejection of its candidacy, as Mr. Beba is a pro-Turkish Libyan politician, perhaps, the position of Turkey will be to ask for a postponement of the presidential election. Normally, this presidential election is set to be held at the end of the present year. You have here the position, you see the parliament of Tobruk on the east part of Libya, and on the other part, the government of Tripoli. Then, we will now, to conclude, address the peripheral area, because you see, speaking of Libya, speaking of these different fights, and especially the situation in Eastern Mediterranean and in Libya and Syria, we understood what I said, that the core of the Turkish foreign policy is really in the Near East and the East Med, but there are at the moment also very important peripheral area, and especially two areas. The first one is Africa. The relation between Turkey and African countries increased tremendously during the last 20 years. It is obvious when you look at the trade relation, trade exchange between Turkey and Africa. But if you look this map, it will be a bit difficult, but it is an idea how to evaluate, how to assess the development of the Turkish African policy. Well, by observing the establishment of embassies, consulate, the establishment, the development of the Turkish airline. Turkish airline became one of the greatest companies with Air France in Africa. Turkish airline is challenging, for example, Air France. The establishment of TICA agency. TICA is the agency of the government, the Turkish government agency of cooperation. And so you can, this is also an index of the development of the influence of Turkey in Africa. Also, you can assess this importance of Africa for Turkey when looking at the official visit, official trips of important Turkish politicians, as for example, former President of the Republic Abdullah Gül or Recep Tayyip Erdogan. Today, each year, Recep Tayyip Erdogan is performing a tour in 3 or 4 African countries. Just some weeks ago, Recep Tayyip Erdogan was in Angola, then in Togo, I think, and Nigeria. So every year, Recep Tayyip Erdogan now is performing a tour in Africa. You have African Summit organized regularly, economical summit organized in Turkey. And also it is interesting to observe the increase, the embassies of the establishment of African countries' embassies and or diplomatic representation. Also, it's interesting that in the Horn of Africa, you have a sort of development, sort of export of the Middle East rivalries we were speaking of. For example, rivalries between Turkey and Qatar on one side, and Egypt, the Emirates, or Saudi Arabia on the other side. Of course, there are rivalries with China, Russia, and of course France in this area. And last but not the least is the development of Turkish involvement in Caucasus. You see here the two presidents. You know that in Turkey, Azerbaijan, there is this sentence, this motto, "İki devlet bir millet," 2 states but 1 nation. The both states has close relation. It was not completely the case after the collapse of USSR, and you know that already a war occurred in High Karabakh 20 years ago, and at that time the support of Turkey to Azerbaijan was less important. But in the last war, that's to say on last autumn, the support of conflict were sent in Azerbaijan, and well, again we observe that a convergence between Turkey and Russia permit to stabilize the conflict, this new war in High Karabakh, and to manage this stabilization. So again, we attend the same kind of behavior. And here you have the map of the situation after the First War and the map of the situation after the Second War. Well, it's not the Second War, in fact, it's the Third War of Karabakh. But anyway, it is the war that took place last year. So you see, indubitably, after this development, this very special foreign policy of Turkey, looking for new friends that are not real allies. At the same time, Turkey tried to maintain its old alliance, to manage its relation with the neighboring country, and especially with the Arab country, and this relation is still complex, but the core of the Turkish foreign policy, the most important files, are especially in the East Med, in the Near East, and in this peripheral country, and especially Africa and Caucasus. Well, I thank you for your attention. Well, I can say it in Turkish, İlginiz için teşekkürler, and I hope you have some question to raise. Thank you for your attention, and I am at your disposal to respond to your questions.
Thank you very much, Professor Jean Marcou, for your very interesting and passionate lecture about geopolitics of Turkey. I think you are explaining us this potential of regional power, and as you showed in your lecture, the geographical location underlines that Turkey is at the same time a European and Asian, Middle Eastern and Caucasian country. It is not just an all Mediterranean country, but also central country whose identity cannot be reduced to a single geographical and a cultural area. So please, if you have the question or comments, you can also ask your comments and questions on the chat. I think we have already first question from Taras Senyuk on the chat. Thank you. Maybe I will read this question. Thank you for presentation. Will further attempts of cooperation with Russia will be harmful for Turkey, and what possible consequences of this cooperation between these two countries? Do you see any advantages for Turkey from this cooperation with Russia?
Okay, yes. As I told you this, well, I wrote a paper with one of my Turkish colleagues, and it's accessible on the web, and it's a very long paper with a lot of analysis of the relation between Russia and Turkey since, well, the end of the Cold War. Of course, this relation is very complex because it is not only an occasional relation, because, as I told you, we observe the development of this relationship through the gas game, for example, between Russia and Turkey, and it is not an occasional relationship, because Russia is going to provide nuclear energy to Turkey. So there are a strong element in this relation. At the same time, we observe that strategically Turkey and Russia has still a lot of disagreement, and you know them in Eastern Europe, because you know also that Turkey has a good relation, for example, with Ukraine, good relation with Poland, providing drones to Ukraine, probably produce drone with Ukraine through joint ventures, providing drones to Poland. So the relation is very special, because and especially when you look at Syria, I think the most important, Turkey is interesting for Russia because Turkey is a member of NATO. And this is the strength of Turkey to be a member of NATO, because I think that Mr. Putin mainly is interested to have Turkey as an ally, because, of course, it is a breach in the NATO union. It appears a sort of breach in the garden of NATO. If Turkey is a real ally with Russia, probably the Turkey will be in a very weak position versus Russia. But Turkey, as a member of NATO, dealing with Russia, of course, this is interesting for Moscow. Well, at the same time, we know that important disagreement continue. Even not only, I was speaking, well, of course, of Ukraine. There is a very important point, is that Turkey didn't recognize the annexion of Crimea by Russia. And we have seen last year that the two countries in Idlib face a very tense relation, a lot of tension. Even Turkey asked the support of the European Union against Russia, and more than 30 Turkish soldiers were struck by a Russian strike. So more than 30 Russian soldiers were killed by Russian and Syrian strike. So you see the relation is quite unstable. Recently, this decision to provide drone to Ukraine provoked harsh reaction from the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, you know that, and probably that. And also, when looking at the history, well, the history of the decline of the Ottoman Empire is the history of wars between Turkey and Russia. 14 wars between Turkey and Russia. So, of course, we can have some doubts with this relation. Of course, in the ministries of foreign affairs, in the Turkish military, you have a new trend, which is a Eurasia trend. So very nationalist, a sort of new nationalism. Well, it's not really new, because we have this form of nationalism with the pan-Turkism nationalism, but there are a sort of new pan-Turkism with strong ethnic nationalists that think that the time of union with the West is over, and that Turkey has to converge with the East, and especially with Russia. We'll see if this trend is really influent in the next years.
Thank you very much. We have a lot of questions on the chat. Maybe the next question from Agata Bader, which demand about which is a difference between relations between Syria, between Turkey and Iraqi Kurds and Syrian Kurds.
Well, we have to understand first that in fact you have different Kurds, and in fact, when looking at a sort of union of Kurds in Kurdistan, in fact, is difficult, of course, because the neighboring countries are opposed to such a project, but also because inside Kurds, between Kurds, you have strong different aspects and sometimes conflicts. Well, this for political reason, this sometimes for tribe and families reason, and also because of cultural and linguistic reason. You know that in fact you have different culture inside the Kurdish world. And of course, the Iraqi Kurds are quite different on a linguistic point of view, but also on a cultural point of view from the Turkish Kurds and the Syrian Kurds. And Turkish Kurds and Syrian Kurds are close relation because, in fact, mainly the Syrian Kurds came from Turkey. They are speaking the same language, which is the Kurmanji. They are coming from the same families as the Iraqi Kurds have a different language, which is Sorani, and there are part of other families. And in fact, so this is a first explanation, first sociologic and linguistic explanation, but you have also political explanation, because in fact, since the beginning of the neighborhood policy and the zero problem, one of the implementation of the zero problem with neighbor policy was in the Kurdish region, in the northern region of Iraq, in the Kurdish region, Iraqi Kurdish region, because in 2007, 2008, Turkey, as Turkey didn't recognize and oppose the independence of Iraqi Kurds, Turkey decided to support or to have direct relation with Iraqi Kurds and to have direct relation with the region of Iraqi Kurds. So why? Because this permits Turkey to oppose the PKK, that's to say this institution, the Party of Workers of Kurdistan, this party is in fact organizing the guerrilla in Turkey. And in fact, why? Because PKK has poor relation, difficult relation with the Iraqi Kurd government. And why? Mainly because the shelter today of Iraqi Kurds is in northern Iraq. And this is a problem not only for Turkey, but also obviously for the Iraqi Kurd. So finally, that's why Turkey developed good relation with the Iraqi Kurds, because also having good relation with Iraqi Kurds permit Turkey to weaken Iraq. And it is, of course, the benefit for the Iraqi Kurd is the economic benefit, energy benefit, because Turkey export the Kurdish oil, and also this permit Iraq to have a strong neighbor to face the domination of Iraq, the Arab domination in Iraq. So you have a special geopolitics of this Kurdish issue. Why no good relation with Syrian Kurds? Because Syrian Kurds have, as I told you, close relation with Turkish Kurds. During the war of Syria in 1993-1994, we saw the support, the involvement of people from Turkey, Kurds from Turkey, to support their brothers in Syria, especially when you have this long siege of Daesh around the city of Kobane. These cities on the Syrian Kurdish border, and in fact, you have a lot of people that support at that time Kobane, and this is significant of this relation between Turkish Kurds and Syrian Kurds. Well, when observing carefully what happened during the 10 last year, and especially at the beginning of the Syrian conflict, and especially when Mr. Davutoglu was the foreign minister of Turkey, we observed that at that time, there were sometimes attempts to establish a relation between Turkey and the Syrian Kurds organization. Even some Syrian leaders, Syrian Kurds leaders, went perform non-official visit in Turkey at that time. And there were, at that moment, some people were explaining that Turkey was going to establish the same kind of relationship with the Syrian Kurd it had previously established with Iraqi Kurd. But finally, this rapprochement failed. And since 2016, in 2016, the operation, the first military operation of Turkey was not directly against Syrian Kurds as the other ones. It was an intervention against Daesh, but in fact, indirectly, this first intervention was already against Syrian Kurds, because the fear of Turkey at that time was that at that time already Daesh was in decline, so Daesh was going to left these borders, these areas on the border of Turkey, especially on the western bank of the Euphrates River. And the fear of Turkey that was that this western bank may be occupied occupied by the Syrian Kurds. So that's why, in fact, Turkey launched this intervention. So you see the reason, and you see that the geopolitics of the Kurdish issue is a really complex geopolitics.
Thank you very much. And maybe the last question, because we don't have any time, from Tomasz Grzegorz Grosse. He demanded about what is the current situation, what is the current position of Turkey on Afghanistan?
Well, I think here too, probably if we have more time, we could have address this Afghan file, because this is also a peripheral issue and an important peripheral issue of the Turkish foreign policy, because the position of Turkey is very interesting, because Turkey tried to intervene in the management of the crisis after the American decide to, well, before the American decide to leave, and after the American decide to leave. Before the American decide to leave, already it was, and this was also a reason of talks and rapprochement between Biden and Erdogan. It was the management of the airport of Kabul. And at the beginning, the project was that Turkey will secure the airport of Kabul after the leaving of the Americans. So Turkey on this file tried to play a new game to facilitate relation between Afghanistan, I mean the new government, the new Taliban government of Afghanistan, and the West, with, of course, condition, because Turkey, especially, asked the Taliban to establish inclusive government, so try to convince Taliban to change their initial attitude and point of view and in order to have, if they wanted to have relation with the West. But Turkey play this important role, try to play this important role between the West and Afghanistan, between the US and Afghanistan. That's why Turkey was disappointed when it observed that Qatar also, which play an important role at the same time, organized meeting without inviting Turkey in the meeting. But this question was perfectly interesting because, of course, it is also a very current issue, important issue that reveal the last development of the Turkish foreign policy.
Thank you very much, Professor Jean Marcou. We have a lot of questions, but unfortunately, our time is over. So maybe we will organize another seminar about geopolitics of Turkey. And I would like to thank very much Professor Jean Marcou to explain us this situation, geopolitics of Turkey, this regional power. And thank you very much, all of you, for being with us, and we wish you very good evening and see you next time. Thank you very much.